Today, we are breaking down the entire strategic management process into simple bite-sized pieces. We'll cover the key stages, the difference between formulation and implementation, and why this is the secret playbook for any successful organization. Stick around to the end for a handy summary toolkit. Let's start simple. Strategic management is the ongoing process of planning, monitoring, and analyzing everything an organization needs to meet its goals and objectives. Think of it as the GPS of a business. It sets the destination and constantly checks if you're on the right route. It's a continuous cycle, not a one-time event. This cycle is typically broken down into 5 key stages. Stage 1. Before the cycle even begins, a successful organization needs its foundation, its vision, mission, and objectives. Vision, our aspirational future. Example, to be the world's most customer-centric company. Mission, our core purpose and business. Example, to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. Objectives, our broad, measurable goals. Example, achieve 20% market share in India by 2026. With this foundation set, we enter the continuous strategic management cycle, the engine room that powers us towards those goals. Stage 2. Environmental scanning and strategy analysis. This is the look before you leap stage. Companies look both inside and outside. Internally, they ask, what are our strengths and weaknesses? Our people, finances, reputation. Externally, they ask, what are the opportunities and threats? Market trends, competitors, new tech. This is often called a SWOT analysis, the foundation of all good strategy. Stage 3. Strategy formulation. Based on the analysis, leadership crafts the game plan. This is where strategy is created. It answers the big question, how do we get from where we are to where we want to be? The company may be confronted with strategic alternative designated with stability strategy, growth, expansion strategy, retrenchment strategy, or a combination of them. Stage 4. Strategy implementation. This is where the rubber meets the road. Formulation is about thinking, implementation is about doing. A brilliant plan is worthless if it sits in a drawer. Implementation involves the entire organization. It means aligning the company's structure, budgeting money and people, setting up new processes, and most importantly, motivating and communicating with your team. This is often the hardest part because it involves change management. Stage 5. Strategic evaluation and control. The process doesn't end with action. You must measure results. Are we hitting our targets? This involves using tools like key performance indicators, the KPIs, and the balanced scorecard. You monitor performance, compare it to goals, and if there's a deviation, you take corrective action. This feedback loop takes you right back to mostly stage 2, making strategic management a continuous adaptive cycle. Strategy formulation. At the top, you have corporate level strategy. That is, what business should we be in? In the middle, business level strategy. How do we compete in this market? Think cost leadership or differentiation. And at the base, functional level strategy. How do each department like marketing, HR support the plan? A crucial part of formulation is understanding 2 types of planning, strategic and operational. Strategic planning is the high-level long-term vision. It's the CEO and top management deciding to enter the Asian market by 2026 or becoming the leader in sustainable packaging. It is the game plan to set the direction, determining and allocating the required resources to achieve that objective. It takes a holistic view of the organization, whilst operational planning is the nitty-gritty. It breaks down the strategic goal into actionable steps. It's the marketing manager planning the specific campaign launch for Asia next quarter, or the production head sourcing the specific recycled materials. Strategic sets the destination. Operational plots the turn-by-turn route. Strategy implementation is basically putting the chosen strategy into actions. That is, aligning structure, allocate resources, money and people to the new course of action needed to be undertaken, develop processes, systems to handle such new activities required to be taken, motivating and training people via maybe cultures or via rewards. Here's the critical link everyone misses. Formulation and implementation are deeply connected, not separate. Think of it like this: a strategy must be formulated with implementation in mind. If you create a plan that your company can't possibly execute, that is, no skills or no money, it's a bad plan. Implementation also provides feedback that leads to reformulation. Many people think strategy flows in a straight line. First you formulate, then you implement, but that's a dangerous oversimplification. In reality, these stages are connected by dynamic two-way linkages. The forward linkage is obvious. You formulated strategy, the plans, goals, and choices. Direct what gets implemented. It sets the priorities, allocate resources, and define success. It's the what and why that guides the how. But the backward linkage is where real learning happens. Implementation isn't just execution, it's the ultimate reality check. Feedback from the field: what's actually working, what resources are truly needed, what resistance emerges, must flow back to inform and often reformulate the strategy. A strategy that can't survive contact with implementation reality is a bad strategy. This creates an adaptive cycle. The best organizations don't just execute a static plan, they learn by doing and adjust their strategy accordingly. Formulation without implementation feedback is arrogant. Implementation without strategic direction is chaos. Despite understanding these linkages, strategic implementation is where most organizations fail. Let's look at the most common pitfalls. The communication breakdown. A strategy is clear in the boardroom but becomes a game of telephone by the time it reaches frontline employees. People can't execute what they don't understand or believe in. Resource disconnect. Asking teams to achieve new strategic goals with yesterday's budget, tools, or headcount. Implementation requires real resource alignment, not just hopeful thinking. Structural resistance. An outdated organizational structure that reinforces old priorities. If your incentives and reporting lines still reward the old strategy, the new ones will suffocate. Cultural immune response. A company's culture, how we really do things here, can reject a new strategy like an organ transplant. Changing process is easier than changing mindsets and behaviors. The feedback black hole. No mechanisms to track progress or capture frontline insights. Without timely data and open channels, small problems become catastrophes before leadership notices. The takeaway: formulation is an intellectual challenge, implementation is an organizational one. It requires managing change, people, and systems. The backward linkage only works if you're listening for it. Build the bridge with intention, or watch your brilliant strategy tumble into the gap between planning and reality. Here's a relatable example. Think of a New Year's resolution. You formulate, I'll get fit, but implementation fails without a clear plan. That is how. Resources such as gym membership, structure, that is a schedule, and feedback, tracking progress. The linkage breaks and the strategy fails.